All right, so today we're going to get into constraints. Constraints are just quite simply a way that we get one object to stick to another object or to constrain itself to another object. We're going to start off very simply. We'll get further in depth with constraints as we go. They can be a little bit confusing. There's a few different ways to go about it. A lot of different people have a lot of different ideas. Each specific task, has its own specific way to go about it. So we're going to start off very, very simply with our UFO and our cow, and take it from there. All right, let's go. All right, so when you first open up your UFO start file, you notice that there's already animation on the UFO itself, but not on the hook or the line going down to the hook. So you can just leave the animation that's on there and work with that, or you can wipe it out and make your own animation if you like. I recommend for this, because we're going to get into constraints and it's going to get a little bit difficult, I'd recommend just let things be as they are. You can keep that animation, and we can go through and concentrate on the other more difficult stuff, let's say. All right, so first thing we want to do, I want to just block out some animation for this chain here. Now, because it's a chain, like how we did the weed principle, it's like a rope or anything like that. I'm going to animate this in auto spline. I'm not going to go in stepped. I'm going to, again, turn off everything but my NURBS curves, because all I need to select is my NURBS curves. And I'm going to start animating this top section here. I'm not going to worry so much about what the chain shape looks like right out of the gate here. I just want to get a feel for it by animating that first. So I'm going to set a key. I'm going to see how this thing moves. So we're going to drag this way a little bit. But this first move, I'm going to see about pulling it this way ever so slightly. No. I'll just have it drag across. When it gets up to this peak here, where my main controller here starts to change direction, is right around here on frame 20. So that's where I want to have that key. So I'm just going to grab that. I'm going to key that at frame 20. I'm going to delete this one I had on 16. So it comes up to frame 20, and then as it changes direction, over the next few frames, I'm going to have it flip back this way. It's going to move fairly quickly. And then as it's pulling this way, I'm going to come to, again, where it starts to slow down. Let's say here on frame 60. And then as it changes direction, I'm going to whip that thing back over, let's say here at 66. For now, we're going to take it that direction. Might be too fast. Let's make it an even 10 frames. Let's take it to frame 70. And as we're coming across this way, we're going to get to, it starts to change direction right around here, right on 82. I'm going to take it a little bit farther. And then have it flip back here, but not too far or too fast. In fact, I'm going to take this one back to 80 here. And then I'm just going to rock it back a little bit and a little bit again as it settles. I'm going to drag my timeline down just to see how that feels. And what we don't want is we don't want it to feel like it's being propelled by something, which it does at the beginning there. It feels like the first motion feels like there's something that's pushing it over there. It doesn't feel like it's being driven by the actual motion of the UFO. So that's where our timing comes in. So I'm just going to play with that timing a little bit. Seems 10 frames is a good... let's take that a couple more. And move that timing around. You start to get a feel for it. Yeah, that feels pretty good. Feels like it's rocking on there about how I want it. Now I can work on some of my other poses. I'm going to go here to frame 30. I'm going to just keep it on the same frames for now. I might want to offset these. Oops. Better first lay down a key there on all these. I'll go to 20. Set a key. Just get a bit of a bend in here. Oh, of course. Need to zero off here. And then as we drag across, we'll pull this thing this way. We can make that feel a bit rubbery. Now, by putting these right on the same keys, so we're gonna miss a bit of overlap, but that's okay. We can add that in a little bit later by keying these at the same keys as the main one. You see how it's all sort of changed at the same time, and we're losing some overlap there, but that's okay for now. I don't mind that so much. In fact, let's just do this right now then. So now what I'll do is I'll grab these guys here. And I'm just going to move them a little bit later. So we still feel that drag. Might as well build that in as we go here. We still want to feel that drag happening. And then, depending on how fast we want that to flip over, that's a little bit fast, so let's take that down a few frames. Good, good. As it drags back, let's go here to about 85. Then over these 5 frames, I'm going to zero this off. Yup. Bring it back this way ever so slightly, so I get a little bit of a curve this way. Same thing here. Bring it back this way just a little bit. In fact, I think I want to delay that a little while. Before finally bringing it to rest when we start to lower down for the cow. 0 those, 0 my rotation on there. There. You get the idea. We can go in there and finesse that a little bit more if we like, but for now I think that'll be fine. We get the idea of the overlap. We can go in, you know, through here as we start to change direction and give this more of a bend. Push that a little bit further. That kind of idea. Okay. Now we're going to settle down and pick up the cow and then fly away with it. I'm not going to animate the hook any further, because once it grabs the cow, the cow is going to drive the hook. And I'll show you why that is. So we want to have this cow here. I'm going to have to turn on my geometry there. So we want this cow to stick to this UFO. We're going to use this controller here at the very bottom to constrain this cow to that controller. Now, one way to go about it is to just simply grab this controller, grab this cow, go up here to constraint, go to parent constraint, make sure that the translate and rotate alls are on, make sure that your hook is in the right place. And I'm just going to, just for the sake of argument for now, I'm just going to leave it and hit apply. Now that I have that constraint on, wherever I move, the cow follows. The problem with doing it that way is that now there's nothing to keep the cow from sinking through the ground. Right? So let's just undo that really quick. Let's quickly create a ground plane. Let's put that ground plane where the cow goes. Let's make it really large. Let's put it on a layer and make it so we can't select it. All right, so there's our ground plane. So if we take our UFO and we lower it down so it grabs the cow, and we constrain it to the cow just by doing a simple parent constraint. Now when we move the UFO around, the cow's going to crash to the ground. So what we'd like to do instead is the opposite of that. We'd like to grab the cow first, the controller second, so the cow is the parent. The controller is the child. We're going to go to our parent constraint options, make sure maintain offset is on, hit apply. Now when we move this UFO around, you can see it's stuck to the cow. Okay, now let's go back a couple of steps. Let's undo that, and let's do it right. I just wanted to illustrate why we do the cow as the driver or the parent, and the UFO as the child once the UFO becomes constrained to the cow. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place this controller where I want it. So there's a mover here that opens and closes the jaws. For now, the first thing I'm going to do is, as this lowers down, I just want to get into place. We're going to have to rotate it. Good. Like that. And it can just simply rotate. As it's slowing down, it can start to rotate. Also, I'd like to, at this point, grab that controller. Good. Let's put a key here. When it comes down to the, let's say at 120, we'll open those jaws up. Let's actually get them open at 117. And then they can close. Let's close them at 122. Oh, no, that's too low. We want to have them closed by 119. bring that 117 back a couple of frames. Nope, I'm going to have to keep it there. So that closes fairly fast. We can adjust that once we constrain it. So now let's constrain it now that we have it here on 119. Let's just say that's where we want that to be. We can open those a little bit so they're not crushing our cow. Okay, so now that's the position where we want. Now we can set our constraints. We're going to select our cow, and we're going to select our chain spline controller. And we're going to go to constraint up here. Make sure that you're in animation on your shelves up here. Go to constrain. You want to go to parent constraint. You want to click the little box beside it and open up your parent constraint options. Make sure maintain offset is on, because we like this offset. If we turn that off, then these things might snap back to their original space in world space. Translate all is on, rotate all is on. We hit apply. Now we have a constraint. Now, this doesn't do us a lot of good because now this thing's stuck. But what it does give us is a blend parent over here on the side. So if we grab that controller again, you see we have this blend parent. So at 119, I'm going to key it. I'm going to key that blend parent on. And I'm going to go back a frame, and I'm going to key it off. So at 118, that blend parent is off. At 119, it's on. So we can fly around here all before 119, or sorry, 119. And then at 119, we're stuck. We're on that thing. All right? And now, if we select our cow, wherever he goes, this controller is going to follow him. And that's just a simple constraint. We could put in a locator in between them as an offset, so we could still move the cow around. Right now, the cow is just glued to it. We can't shift him at all. We'll get into that later. I don't really want to get into that right now with this lesson. We're still pretty early with this, so we'll get into that a bit later. So now, how do we go about finishing this little piece of animation? Well, it can get a little tricky, but we can do it. So let's lower down till we grab this cow. I have these two controllers now selected. You can see as we squash down, it makes quite a mess. So let's go to our lowest point here, and let's just clean that up a little bit by dragging these up. And give them a little bit of shape. Kind of crumples them up a bit, but that's okay. And then when he goes back up here, let's go to 150. We can zero these off. Good. Let's open up our timeline a little bit. Now, we get a little push down here. I'm looking at this main controller. It starts to come up at 158. He starts to lift. So let's grab our cow, key it at 158. Let's actually give it a few frames so we can feel a bit of a stretch. Let's go to 164. And let's see where this thing gets to its top. So let's have that cow bounce up. Let's actually give it a bit more time. Let's give it a good stretch. Boom, cow comes up. And drag it a few frames. So I want it to start. I'd like to see the UFO here start to come down while our cow is still traveling up a little bit. So then it can go back down a bit. We can get a little bit of a bounce here. Bounce. Take this a bit farther. Helps to make sound effects for sure. So here I translate Y. Where's the 0? Oh, is that how long it usually is? Can't be. Nope. It's a lot of bouncing he's doing. Maybe we don't want to go quite so far. I'm going to open up my graph editor. and just look at my translate Y really quick on my cow, and just maybe dampen that a little bit. Just so we don't have quite the bounce. Now, again, when he turns, I'm going to start animating this guy again. Here's where he starts to change direction. So I'm going to do the similar thing. He comes through here. Let's get a bit of a drag that way. Bit of a flip this way. Seems to happen too quickly, so let's give it a few more frames. Just delay that somewhat. Just play around with it until find something that works. Good. Now the trick is getting that cow to follow it. Cow goes down, it's coming back up and over. Let's grab that cow and try that a little bit. Oops. I'll make sure he's all keyed there, not just... No. Let's undo that and just make sure he's keyed here at 202. As he gets all the way over, before this starts to change direction, I'm going to bring the cow up and tilt him slightly. Almost feels like we could actually add a little bit of drag this way first. There we go. So the nose goes down first, and it comes up. Drags it along. In fact, I think we can extend all this stuff a little bit. That's getting there. And as he flies away, out of screen, we'll say to there, our cow follows. Something like that.